You're listening to Business Lunch with Roland Frasier. This is your seat at the table.
Hey everybody, Roland Frasier here today with Business Lunch. My guest today is Brian Daly, a fellow San Diegan. So we're socially distanced properly apart here in San Diego from each other. And welcome to the show, Brian. How you doing?
Thank you so much. It's a totally honored to be here. I've been a fan of the show for a while, so it's kind of cathartic to be here, you know.
That's awesome. Well, I'm happy to have you on. Would you just, so everybody can kind of get an idea of what you do now before we dive into your entrepreneurial journey, share that with us?
Yeah. I mean, to put it really simple, I flip properties in San Diego. You know, we like to pretty it up a little bit because I'm not a big fan of the word flip, but it is what it is. We buy distressed assets and fix them up mainly through construction. I have a lot of fun with it. I love real estate. I love business just as much. So I'm getting a kick out of building a team and a brand and just having fun.
That's awesome. And where are you in terms of like the volume or of sales or houses that you're flipping now currently every year?
So we start. I will probably get into it. I restarted again last April, and we bought 25 properties last year, and we'll probably buy 60 to 65 this year.
That's awesome. And what's the average price that you're buying? Because you're buying in San Diego, it's a pretty expensive market, right?
Yeah. Average price that we're buying at is about 450, 500,000. Average sales price is 600, 650,000.
Okay. So you're buying about $30 million of property this year. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. It varies pretty greatly. You know, as you know, we could buy $1 million house in Carlsbad or a $300,000 house in Encanto.
Which is better?
You know, right now in Canto, for us, considering San Diego is such a housing shortage, we end up selling that in the low 500s, and there are, I mean, it's like on repeat, 25 offers per property when we list them. So
even now, and since the shutdown and everything, is it still pretty good clip of offers?
Yeah, I mean, for a while there, we were a little worried. But since the shutdown and buyers started, I guess, gaining that more confidence or just realizing they didn't want their crappy apartment anymore. I don't know what it is, but buyers are everywhere. There's not enough inventory and there's a lot of offers.
That's really cool. I love it. Well, so now how does one get into the business that you're in? Where did you start getting into this real estate thing?
It's a cool thing about real estate, and I think it's from what I understand, similar to in the like digital business space, is the barriers are relatively low, and they're all mental, I think. So
always, right?
Yeah, right. So I think there's 1,000 different ways you can get into the business. For me personally, I've been in real estate since 2005. I was in college. You know, right before I left for college, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad. Life-changing book. It made me realize I want to own real estate and I want to own businesses, and that's what I've been focusing on since. And so I started off in mortgages actually in 2005, and various roles and industries or niches since then. But in 2011 is when I started investing in real estate. First stint there I did during the recession, the Great Recession, whatever we're calling it now.
2007, 8, 9, right?
Yeah, I worked for the dark side. I joined the banks and got a lot of experience. You know, I managed a portfolio of 300 properties at a time across the country. So,
wow,
that's actually was the big stepping stone into getting into the investment side, because I would, we got a lot of transactional experience. Two, just saw a lot of properties going to cash buyers and realizing, this is what I read about in Rich Dad Poor Dad, what I wanted to do, and I kind of got sick of selling them to people that were doing it, so I just decided it was about time we did it ourselves.
So it was kind of like that experience just really showed you the proof that there were people doing this, because you got to see it firsthand. Yeah, that's pretty cool. And now, so this is something that I think I've seen a lot of people try to get into this kind of business, and as you said, most of the blocks are mental, but some of the blocks are, I think, it's mental, but it's also somewhat real. The fear of like, how am I going to buy a $400,000 house and hope that I bought right and not lose my butt as I'm going through the process?
Yeah.
Because are you doing rehab as well?
Yeah, we brought construction in-house this year, and working on kind of, again, we'll probably get into it. We have the system that's working really, really well. So, we're figuring out ways to kind of maximize and take advantage of that. But yeah, we're doing all the construction. Our average construction is about $62,000 now. And we do big jobs, and it is scary for new people. But I guess to answer your question, start where you are, right? That's the one thing that was really hard for me, because I'm always living in the future, is just to realize, like, look, everybody started somewhere. So when we started, I say we because I had a business partner at the time, we didn't know. We knew real estate. We didn't know anything about construction, but we heard about this idea that you could lock a property up and sell the contract without ever taking the actual risk. You were putting your earnest money deposit at risk, and that's called wholesaling. So that's what we did at first. And we didn't even know what we were doing there. We knew. So
how did you go about finding properties then?
So this was in 2011, and the market was overrun with inventory, a lot of short sales and a lot of foreclosures. And me and my business partner, our expertise at that time was dealing with real estate agents, because that's what we were doing when we were managing foreclosures. So we leaned in to what we knew. We knew how to talk to real estate agents, and we had a unique angle because we were asset managers, and every real estate agent at the time wanted to know an asset manager. Okay. We could not do anything for them, but they didn't really know that. And
they didn't know why they wanted to have that relationship. They just wanted to have it.
Exactly.
Nice.
So we were still working as asset managers, but we did not conflict. I did not own or manage any properties in San Diego, because that would be a no-no. But yeah, so that's what we did. We called properties that were on the market and started creating relationships with real estate agents. And that's still what I do to this day.
So if you were starting over now, would you do kind of the same thing? Is that the path you would take?
That's what I did, because I started over last year. So
you can actually say yes. As a matter of fact, I would, yes, right?
Exactly. That's what I would do. But to the point that we talked about again at the beginning, is there's 1,000 different ways to start in real estate if you want to get in this investment world. Mm-hmm. And that works for me. I don't know if it would, if you're, there's probably other ways and better ways to start if you didn't have the experience that we had working with real estate agents. But it just took a lot of grit, right? We worked just like, every other entrepreneurship journey. I mean, we had a 9-to-5, which was more like a 9-to-7. And then from 7 to 12, we would scour the MLS and realize and make a list of who we wanted to call the next day. And then on the way to work, we would start going down the list as we were driving. I mean, it was a routine that we did for probably about 6 months.
So what you're doing, your way is different than most of the ways that I hear, which is that most of the people are doing like direct mail campaigns and things like that. So you're not doing that kind of stuff as much as you're like, you pull up do you pull up just realtor.com or Zillow, or what? How do you do that?
No. So in my first iteration of doing a business in this industry, we did a lot of direct to seller stuff. And we did it at a time when there weren't a lot of other people doing it. And so we were able to I guess, corner that market. And we were spending a lot of money. I mean, we were spending $40,000, $50,000 a month to market to sellers.
Yeah.
As I started over this time, the reality is now people have in this industry, competitors in this industry have 5-10 years of experience marketing to sellers, and they've created machines. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's big players that spend a lot of money, and they do it the right way. It's really, really hard to compete with that unless you're prepared to set up a machine, or unless you're prepared to really get your hands dirty, I guess, and without a better way of saying it, by going to knock on doors and just being the person in front of them.
Right.
So a long-winded way to say, you're right. Yes, I do not do any direct seller marketing. I do not really do a lot off the MLS though anymore. I focus on we focus on branding our company as just a partner to real estate agents, and our client avatar is a real estate agent. Her name's Julie. I don't even know if she knows. She's a real person, Julie Lupo. Yeah. And we love her, and she's our avatar, and that's all we do. We focus on creating dialogue, creating relationship with, and loving on real estate agents. And then the leads come to us. And that's how we kind of focused on growing our strategy this time around.
And so what are you looking for? Like, what are you telling Julie that you're looking for?
Usually it's motivation. It's the same thing that if you're marketing to a seller, what you're first trying to find out is, are they motivated? Do they have a reason to want to sell to somebody in an easy fashion for cash? And if they do, then usually we can figure out a way to make the property work. So the first thing is just motivation. And there's a lot of it out there, especially now with, people not wanting to let people in their house.
So, yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
So what are you looking for? Walk me through a deal. So let's say that, pick in any one that you want, but let's say you make the call to the real estate agent and you say, I'd love for you if you could say, what do you say to them that you're looking for? Then they bring something to you. Can we walk through one just to kind of share with people how it works?
Yeah. I mean, typically we say, look, we're looking for a property that needs a little TLC. And if, our as I mentioned, our typical property needs a full renovation. So we're not scared of the big jobs. We're not scared of the small jobs, but typically we're ripping everything out and putting everything in new, from bathrooms to kitchens. And so typically the house has been neglected and it's not going to qualify for financing. And they're looking for a fast way to move it without the ins and outs of fallout. I mean,
when you say it's not going to qualify for financing, tell me what that means.
When the property condition is rough, which a lot of these are nasty, and a lender is not going to finance it. They're going to require a lot of repairs, and in most cases, when the property is like that, the seller is not in a position to do repairs.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why the property is like that.
Exactly.
Okay. So you found that property. You call Julie. She says, "Hey, man, I got a property down here and it's $400K. They're looking for it, and it's in pretty rough shape, but I know that doesn't scare you." Then what do you do next?
We jump on it, quickly do a desktop analysis, make sure that we're within reason.
And are you looking just at comps around like normal houses, what they're selling for, to kind of figure out what the spread might be?
Exactly.
Okay.
So,
and then how do you make your offer? I mean, meaning how do you price that?
Well, we got this spreadsheet that is complicated yet simple for us.
Okay.
So you type in what we think we're going to sell it for. We in this case, we're just doing a desktop analysis. So we're estimating what the repairs are going to be based on what we know about the property and similar properties we've done in the past.
And are you pricing with a real estate agent selling it, or are you selling those yourself?
Most of the time with our partners, they're relisting it on the back end.
Okay, cool.
Sometimes we're buying from other investors or what they call wholesalers, and they don't need to relist it. So it's a 50-50. But when we're working with a real estate agent, we're letting them relist.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. So you plug in your numbers.
Plug in the numbers. Yeah. So it's a simple calculation of, hey, what we're going to sell it for, how much is it going to cost, how long is it going to take, and then it spits out an offer. So as long as we're within reason, with $50,000, $25,000 within what they want, we'll go out there immediately, ideally within 24 hours if they're willing. And then we like to provide a verbal offer. At this point, I've done enough of these where, if I'm seeing it or my director of construction is seeing it, we don't need contingencies. It's just a straight offer. We don't wholesale it. It's our cash. We're going to close on it. And we usually close at this point, in order to compete these days, which does make it hard for new people to come in, we got to close within 10 days usually.
Okay. And are you using financing, or is it all cash?
Financing. Yeah. We have relationships with two primary hard money lenders. We have our primary and then a backup. And
for people that don't know what hard money is, will you give a very quick overview of that?
Yeah. Hard money is basically, it's financing. It's just a loan, but they do it in a way that they can close in 3 to 5 days. Usually it's based on the value of the property and not necessarily my finances, right? It's just an asset-based loan. So,
and are you liable on those? Is that something you have to personally guarantee?
Not anymore. To start, I was, and then now I just make sure that I have the conversation that I've done enough of these. I don't need to need that personal guarantee anymore.
Okay. And so now if the house is selling for say 400K, and let's say it's going to be worth 500 when you're done, you've got about 100 in it, or maybe I should say 600. It's going to be worth 6. That gives you, and it's going to be 65,000 of repairs, and you've got a real estate commission on the back. Do you have an amount that you're targeting that you want to make in terms of a dollar amount or a percentage return on a property?
Percentage return. So I'm a numbers geek, and I believe in protecting downside more than the upside. So, it really does depend, but for us, our max offer is usually around, if it's a really cookie cutter house, we know very confidently where that property is going to sell for on the back end. And right now, how quick properties are moving, we're usually around 9% cash on cash return, which is pretty slim compared to what it used to be. We're averaging, because of probably market appreciation, and we pride ourselves in doing a good job. We're averaging probably at like 11%. But
on a 400K house after repaired value, where you're out a full amount of 400K, you'd be expecting to sell it and net 36K. Is that about right? I base it off of purchase price plus our rehab plus our holding costs is, all the cash that's required to go into it. So on a typical house, our out of pocket cash is probably around 510,000 ish. Okay. And so we'll want about 9% of that as our max offer. So now if you're out that 510, how much of that comes from the hard money lender?
They'll do 90% loan to cost now if our margins are good enough.
Okay. And 90% loan to cost, meaning, so on that 500, let's say it was 500.
Let's just say they'll lend 450,000.
Okay. So you have a 50K gap between, and that's everything that you needed, right? Including the fix up costs.
Yeah. And it's usually about 60 to 70, give or take, on that lower of a property.
And then are you funding that gap with your money, or are you using investors, or how does that work?
Investor money also. I have one primary investor, really, which is great. Love him. And he lets us do what we do. He trusts us, and he comes in with that gap money. And we have other investors as well, but and we structure it in many different ways. It depends on the investor. What
does the investor look to get out of that?
We pay our investor very, very well. So he gets a joint, for our primary investor, we do a joint venture, because he's usually has 3 million out with us at a time. And so on average, I think he's averaging probably about 30 to 40% annualized return on his money on the gap funds.
Great. Yeah. Nice. So he's making $1 million, $1.2 million a year off his three.
Yeah.
Pretty good, right?
But we also have other, like smaller investors we're trying to actually right now grow our investor pool, because we have a lot more opportunities than we're taking advantage of. And so we're in the process of launching a fund, which, thank you for your recommendation to Brad. Brad's great. And so we're also doing trust deed investments right now, since we've got a really good track record of performing. So, we'll pay 12 to 15% annualized if they're not, if it's 100,000 at a time or something like that. Yes. And then soon we're doing this, like I said, we're doing this fund where we're going to raise $5 million at a pool, and that'll be at an IRR of 15% or more.
Yeah. Perfect. So it sounds like a super fun business. What is, like, if somebody wanted to get into it, what would you suggest they do?
First off, be really, really honest with yourself, with what your skill sets are, where your unique strengths are. Because as I said, there's a bunch of different ways to get started. Maybe your unique strength is you have access to a lot of capital and you know the numbers. Well, then maybe you can just go buy off the MLS or go start talking to real estate agents, because you already have all the other stuff figured out. If you don't have cash, maybe you're really personable, you're not afraid to talk to people, go knock on doors.
Yeah.
Or cold call, which I hear people are doing very, very successfully these days.
And are there books that you think are particularly good, or any other resources that you found to be exceptionally helpful in doing this?
Oh man, you catch me off guard. I haven't read a book about getting started in real estate investing in a long time because
you haven't started in a long time.
Yeah. So I really I'm not the best to answer that, to be honest.
No, that's cool. We have plenty of resources we can recommend for people. I just wanted to see.
Clothier, right? I mean, he's
Kent Clothier is a real estate worldwide is definitely a .com, a good place to go. I really appreciate you taking the time to kind of explain this stuff and break it down for us. If people wanted to get a hold of you, or if they were interested in talking to you about the possibility of investing with you or anything like that, what would be the best way for them to do that?
Good question. I'm on Facebook. Facebook is probably the easiest way to find me. Brian Daly, Brian C. Daly. It's
I know you're in San Diego, so that's a good start.
San Diego, yes. BRIAN CDALY. You can find us. Our brand on for our company is the San Diego Homebuyer. It's just spelled out.
Is that a .com?
The San Diego Homebuyer.com. Yep.
Perfect. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And do you have a podcast or any other places that you like to connect with people?
I don't have a podcast yet.
Soon to have a fund, though.
I'm going to have a fund. So I'm really enjoying the business building side of this. You and I talked about this before. Yep. Like, I love real estate. I love the business building side of it just as much. And I'm really focusing on San Diego real estate. So I started a real estate newsletter. So if anybody's in San Diego interested in real estate, I've got that as well, which I put out weekly with all the market stats, and I try to make it interesting as much as I can.
And that's on your site?
Yeah. Well, it's getrealreports.com/sign up. I don't know. That's a terrible URL.
Getrealreports.com. That's a good place to start, and I'm sure they can find the / right. Awesome. Well, dude, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time to be here, and I'm excited to hear all that you do with the fund, and look forward to seeing you in person as soon as all this craziness goes away.
I know. Thank you so much. Again, it's been an honor.
Thank you.
All right.